Mahdi?
Well, we mentioned in the previous episodes, right? A lot of things with regards to the surrounding and everything that could have influenced Ibn Khaldun and everybody else during that time, the 14th century. If you look back, the 13th century, the century before, was a devastating century for the Muslims. 1258, the attack on Baghdad, the Mongols, the invasion of a lot of Muslim lands and non-Muslim lands by the Mongols, a massive empire that the Mongols developed. They were coming further towards the Middle East and to Africa, and then the Battle of Ain Jalut happened, right? So we're talking about the destruction of the heart of Islam.
And the displacement of peoples, because as we know, the Turkic tribes are migrating
they're migrating
and taking power, etc., etc. So
very good.
So the displacement of peoples and the changing of faces, the changing of peoples in power, all these things happening pretty much at the same time.
Very good, exactly. I mean, don't forget, if we looking at Ertugrul, for example, some of us might know the series. Ertugrul, who fled with his tribe towards the Minor Asia, towards the area which is now as Turkey, basically. He works for the Seljuks that time in power. They give him Surgut as the capital. All this develops during that time. The Turkic people become more prominent and more, yes, absolutely, part of Islam as well. And then the Mongols, as we said again, and then 14th century going into the idea of the problem of the plague. Okay, this video is sponsored by the Muqaddima program. For nearly 7 centuries, Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddima has been read and studied by scholars and students of history, sociology, politics and economics as the single most authoritative and astounding work of classical scholarship in the field of history. Embark on an enlightening educational venture led by Muslim scholars and teachers delving into Islamic history, sociology, economics and beyond. Engage with cutting-edge learning cues and multimedia components, allowing for a deeper understanding of the topics. Distinguish between the lies and the truths of the narratives told, between reliable and unreliable sources. Equip yourself with the skills to conduct deep research and build confidence to combat Islamophobia. Come and strengthen your Muslim identity today. Grab the course in the video description. Comes to it. So first, people believe the Mongols are actually Gog and Magog, yes, right? Juj and Majuj. And after that, well, that was not the case, because the Mongols actually assimilated themselves in such a way they became Muslim. MashaAllah. 3 out of 4, this is an exciting part of history, I find, that out of 4 big Mongol tribes or big Mongol leaders, 3 become Muslims, and the 4th one assimilates into China. So basically that's about it. The Mongols disappear as a people, as the Vikings disappeared as well, by the way, before. So you have the Mongols influencing Asian civilization, Islamic civilization as well.
His theory of Bedouin,
so that's gone.
And city life as well.
That's it. Very good.
Very good. In his idea of a Bedouin, because there are 2 ideas. There's a Bedouin which is an Arab, and then there's a Bedouin which is his idea, the lifestyle. So living in the harsh environment, nomadic lifestyle. And the Mongols were nomads, pure and simple. They were the Bedouins that he talks about. And so they wiped out, they
destroyed.
They
decimated,
what's
absolutely.
The word? They fully overran the civilized people, or the people living in cities.
Yes.
So yes, so and that's his theory in a way, playing its part right over there.
Yeah, which influenced, of course, the whole what we're talking now was known to Ibn Khaldun, and influenced, of course, his raising and his beliefs. But I think what influenced him even more after that, because it's closer to him, is the time of the Death Plague.
Black Death. His parents
the Black Death, and his parents they died, right? Because of that, and many people died throughout Europe, the Middle East, Africa. It affected humanity at that time, and I mean, as we are now experiencing a pandemic as well, we should understand that that is not a good thing. Alhamdulillah, we're not on that stage, of course, that people die like flies next to us, but in a way, if you hear reports, you hear that in certain countries it does happen.
It does happen, yes.
So yeah, it's something that I think we should understand, that it was a very devastating, a very difficult period of time for people to live that time and to develop as humans, as mankind, as civilizations, and so on and so on. And then we have Ibn Khaldun talking about, you know, writing the Muqaddima. So you can imagine that all this influenced him and his people very, very much, very much.
There is a quite controversial claim that's attributed to Ibn Khaldun that he denies the Mahdi. Can you tell us a bit more about this? Why is the Mahdi central in a way? Who is the Mahdi in Islam? Why is it central, especially in North Africa, to the narrative?
I wouldn't say he denies the Mahdi. It's more, again, he's bringing it back to his I would say his material idea. He's bringing it, he's looking at it, at how it affects society, for example. As you can see, the whole turmoil in North Africa, the whole world, but North Africa, where he was obviously living and working, the whole turmoil there was fertile ground for people claiming to be the Mahdi, saviors, etc., to gather a following. And he does mention how this is very harmful to not just society, but to the political institutions that are in place there. How someone can claim to be the Mahdi, gather a great following, especially among the Berber tribes there,
yes.
and then overrun and get rid of the current governor or current government of that specific territory.
And in
So
fact,
you're saying, sorry, are you saying that he actually still believes in the Mahdi, but because it's not convenient, we're not going to talk about it? Is this what you're saying?
I'm not saying that I would say he does believe. It's just that he's saying that the idea of it is harmful to society because people abuse it.
well, I mean, a great example, as you mentioned, the founder of the Al-Muhad dynasty actually claimed, Ibn Tumar,
To be Mahdi, yes.
claimed to be a Mahdi.
But many did. In
And
Egypt,
also
Sudan
in
as well,
Egypt,
and-
in Egypt, the founder of the Fatimid, Ubaydullah
Yes.
ibn, he also claimed to be the Mahdi.
The Mahdi.
So it can be misappropriated, abused, and exploited.
But anything can be misused, and as it was, and it has been. That does not mean that we're not going to talk about it, and that does not mean that we don't believe it, right? So again, you know, I think what shows us here, I take it rather that Ibn Khaldun was a human being.
Absolutely.
He made mistakes, and I mean, we should never, and we are definitely not the ones who, despite our program and despite the admiration that we all have for him, we do look at him as being a human being and a man as he was, and nothing more, nothing less. Okay, very important. I think we should always, and I keep using this word a lot in my lectures also. Let's be pragmatic, okay, and look at it in with the lens of pragmatism, and you will see that he was just a human being who had his issues as well, and I think that's one of them.
But he denies, you could say, incarnations of the Mahdi by people who are clearly charlatans,
Okay.
which then destabilizes society because you have movements that are being inspired. For example, a great example actually, 1979 Mecca,
Yeah.
Juhayman al-Utaybi. What happened there? The Kaaba was taken hostage. Many people lost their lives because there was a claim of the Mahdi arriving.
Again, another one.
And
yes,
we
yes.
see how that destabilized, or could have really destabilized Saudi Arabia.
On the other hand, it did help the Sudanese against the British and against their colonialism, you know, so the Sudanese anti-colonial...
Asabiya comes into it.
Asabiya,
Right,
exactly.
Asabiya.
So even the Mahdi needs Asabiya.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very good, excellent, yes. Alhamdulillah. No, I mean, it is important to see that the historical development of before the birth of Ibn Khaldun and the influence that it had had on Islamic society, of course, because of the Mongols, and then later during his time also the issue of the plague and everything else that was affecting the whole world at that time, not just the Muslim world, the whole world, played an important role on thinkers and on geniuses and on people like him, intellectuals and academics.
Yeah, the environment around him also, like many other scholars back then, gave them the idea that they were at the end of times. So, yeah, it was the end of times. So his ideas, you can see them in the book, for example. Again, with regards to his environment, you had empires, you had peoples rising and falling around his territory. Al-Andalus decreasing in its territory until Granada. So his book is literally a remedy of. It's an account of rise and fall of nations, yes, but it's more of a remedy as well. What can you do to prevent the fall? What can you do to, first, you diagnose if you're falling, if the luxuries are rife, and how then will you, what attempts will you do to deal with this, to deal with the luxuries everywhere?
I think one thing that I forgot, Jazakallah khair, I said indeed, what you just brought in there, the fall of Al-Andalus, by the way. Very important, because Al-Andalus was considered as the pearl of the Muslim world. Although there were issues, of course, between the Umayyads and the Abbasids ruling from Baghdad, we know all that, okay. However, Al-Andalus was what we know. Al-Andalus was the pearl of the Muslim world. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The diamond of the Muslim world. And this actually was the time of the fall of Al-Andalus. I mean, the Umayyads had actually already given up Al-Andalus. There was the infiltration of the Berber nations coming from North Africa. You mentioned the Almohads, the Almoravids, so they are the next ones coming to keep it up. But Al-Andalus was actually just destroyed in different taifas, in different provinces, where we have Muslim princes, let's call them princes. They were fighting against each other, okay? And they needed some help from outside, which they got in the form of the Berbers, right?
The Asabiya again,
yeah.
And again, as you can see, his theories taking place as well. That, again, because he had direct experience with it. The Almohads, the Berber tribes taking over and ruling. This is a direct experience that you can see. That's where he gets his theory from, with regards to the Bedouins taking over, and then 4 lifetimes, 4 generations, and the last generation is drowning in excess. That they're easily taken over by another Bedouin tribe with stronger asabiya, with stronger group feeling, with stronger solidarity, group solidarity, and that can remove them, as well as they've experienced the harsh environments of the desert. So removing people who are living in comfort and security is not difficult. So that's where his theory, you can see clearly his theory coming into place because of all of what was happening around him. And again, it's amazing how much political experience this scholar has, because, I mean, if you were to think nowadays of scholars, you do not necessarily see them, especially religious scholars, you do not attribute them to a political lifestyle or political, or being politically involved.
No, because we have entered the age, starting in the 19th century, of nationalism. We have entered the age of atheism in that way. God is, we don't do God right nowadays, especially in Europe. In Europe is absolute. I mean, the Americans at least the Americans say, "In God we trust," which says on the American dollar, by the way, "In God we trust."
Gold, oil, and dollars.
Sorry?
Gold, oil, and dollars.
Exactly. But at least they do that. At least there is no problem in the White House mentioning God. But can you imagine anybody now in politics in the UK or in Germany or in France using the word God? They would most probably ask him to have a checkup. There is a problem. So we don't do God in Europe. Okay, so absolutely you're right. I mean, this is something that is a problem, and that's why I think also I've seen so many times, heard so many interviews by non-Muslims talking about Muqaddima and talking about Ibn Khaldun, not considering his religious background at all. It's as if he was just talking about evolution without considering God at all. It's as if he was just talking like Darwin or whoever. I mean, unbelievable, and that really frustrates and annoys me. I don't think it's fair. They're not fair.
Now, for the very first time, students of Islamic history will have the rare and unique opportunity to study this monumental and classical work of genius under the tutelage and guidance of experts in the field of research and education. To find out more about the Muqaddima program or to enlist yourself onto this unique and fantastic learning journey, please visit our website at www.al-Muqaddima.com, where you will be able to download our program prospectus, register your interest by submitting an application directly via the online enrollment form.